Hey,
Hey there, Jeff. How's it going today?
it's going well. I was thinking a little bit about our last conversation where we were talking about individual feedback to leaders and how leaders should take
When I was
feedback.
giving when I was giving you feedback,
Yeah, and you were saying triggers, and you were talking about that project, and part of that project that you were not only working with the leaders about how they were taking individual feedback, but also then using those skills
Hmm.
to work on taking survey feedback. And we were talking about triggers. That did trigger me because I often feel like leaders treat survey feedback as optional and not really like
Yeah.
feedback. And what I always tell leaders when we are going into a survey program is this is the start of a conversation. It is not just a one way piece of information, it is a dialogue. And that part of that dialogue is you asking essentially, how are things going? The survey results are here is how things are going, and then for you to continue the conversation. Otherwise, it's like me going up to you and saying, "Hey, how are you feeling?" You giving me, "Well, I'm kind of okay. There's some things that could be better," and then just walking away. Which, if you imagine, if you were on the other side of that conversation, that would feel kind of crappy, right? So I wondered, given that this was part of your effort, just first of all, maybe why do you think leaders see this as optional? Why do we not treat survey feedback with more respect? Maybe it's the word I'm looking for.
Hmm.
And what can we do to make sure that leaders realize this is not a one way or one sided type of deal, that it really should be a ongoing conversation?
Wow. Okay, so those are really difficult questions. Let's see if we can break it down and get there. Um, First of all, I'll tell you, I'll give you a little bit of background about this one project, like you said, that we were working on. This particular group of leaders, they're a little bit more focused on the present. They're focused on getting things done. They're very adamant in terms of their direction and their opinions. So if you stereotype them, it's like, hey, we've got to keep the trains going. Like this is what it's about, and we're doing well, and we've got a lot of a history behind us. So you know, stop with your whining about problems. Let's fix those problems. Get over it, right? And so we're trying to push back a little bit on that. And we actually did try to make that same exact analogy for them. This is just like a conversation, and we had them receive feedback from their peers, individual feedback, and then when we presented them with questions and asking them about that process, we kind of posed the same questions that you posed to me. We posed it to them. Well, then why is it that the organization is giving you feedback and yet we've been slow to actually get something in gear? So when I think about, you say, well, why does that occur? I think part of it is we have mechanized the survey. It's another set of numbers, and we forget where the numbers come from. Comments are nice, but comments can trigger defensiveness because it's like, hey, that Mastrangelo, he's a son of a gun and doesn't know his elbow from this other part of his anatomy. And it's like, whoa, and I can't get over that. And that sticks in my head. And now my view of hundreds or thousands of other people is jaded because of that one thing. So um, I'm starting to wonder. So now I don't know if I have great answers, so I'll give you a chance to answer your own question. But I'm starting to wonder if we need to put the senior leaders, the executive team, in a mindset the same way that we would for anyone. Hey, Jeff, I want to give you some feedback and I've collected this information. Let's have a great conversation about it. here's where we're going as a company, and I want you to be a part of that, and I want me to be a part, right? There's all sorts of ways that we could position a great conversation where you're getting feedback. I don't know if we always do that for executives. And so you stole one of my great speeches when you talked about thinking about the survey as a conversation. So I'm going to give you a different one, and you can steal this one some other time. I've started saying to executives, look, I don't want you to think about the survey as a report card. I don't want you to think about it as a performance metric. Because if we think about it that way, we want to bring home an A or an A plus. It's like it's really important. And that's not what this is about. This is like a scouting report. This is like a weather report. Oh, it's raining. It's my fault that it's raining. No. What your job is to figure out what are the things that you need your team to do, and that it's raining. So what's the preparation? What are the things that have got to go on? And I think that's a part of the mindset shift. And then maybe they're ready to absorb and they're ready to take action. What are your thoughts, Jeff? You've been doing this a long time.
I love that because it is there's no end game, right? It's always about continuous improvement, not having a perfect score. And so I'm always looking to push my clients to change the content of their survey over time, right? That how we continue to learn and improve and grow from that. So I love that direction because I think that's the point of this. This is not to get an A, right? It is to help
Mhm.
improve the organization and continue to make it a stronger environment and more productive and successful organization. So I think that's a big part of it. You also said something that really resonated with me, which was they don't know where the data is coming from. And often when leaders get negative feedback, and one of the things is, well, we can't share this data because it's negative. Um,
Right.
I say they know it's negative.
They
they
already know.
they already know they're the one giving you this information. Like you're not holding anything back from not sharing that. Like that.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
this is who told you this, right? So I do sometimes think that there is that disconnect, like where this information is not just coming out of some left field, it is really coming from your people. And so I do think that that's important connection to make. And then the other piece that I will grab onto, it is data, and that also I think can create that disconnect to data is a interpretation or a translation of perception, feelings, experiences of your people, but that
Mhm.
disconnect again is a separation. And so it's important maybe to make sure that we're reminding leaders this is that translation, this is about their experience, it is not about a number. And that is a really
Yeah.
tough thing because they see what's my score. Like you get that, oh, what's my engagement score? Give it to me, baby. Give me my score, right? And it's like it's not just about your engagement score, right? It's about what are people truly experiencing. It's more than just the number. And so I think that gets disconnected as well. And as soon
Yeah.
as you start having those disconnections, it stops being that conversation. It stops being about the improvement, and it just starts being about that score on a piece of paper or a screen.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I'm gonna turn the wheel a little bit and see if we can drive this conversation a slightly different direction. I've been really working on this concept. And originated, I gave a presentation to a bunch of folks who do people analytics. And I was counting myself in the group. And I said, I think we don't do a good job of packaging people analytics so that they are received by the people who need to use them. And therefore, they don't take action. They don't actually take the next step. And I use the analogy, as you recall, I lived in Maryland for 6 years. Yeah, I think that sounds right. And so when you when I will order Maryland crabs to be shipped to me,
I knew we were
they
going
are
to crabs. I knew crabs were coming into the picture. I was already.
you can take Baltimore out of the boy, but you no boy out of okay, never mind. I totally screwed
Yeah.
that up. Give me feedback on how I need to work my metaphors better. But the idea was, yeah, they do a great job of finding the crabs, and they're the best crabs, and they cook them a specific way. But that they go beyond that. They then package them, make sure they're cold. They put in directions for how to reheat them, spices, etc. And now I receive it, and it's ready for me to take action. And so I'm trying to make this link over to where we were with organizational feedback and individual feedback. Is there a way that we can set the conversation? It's like, hey, we have something in common here. Here's our mission, or here's our strategy, or what we're trying to achieve. We're coming out of a hole, whatever it is, right? We want delicious crabs. And so I was forced. Given that, now can we both be on the same side of the table and look at the feedback as if these are not problems with you, sir, or you, ma'am, or you, team? No, these are problems that the employees are experiencing, and they're part of all of our problem. In other words, if we're trying to get this done, we're constantly battling the outside forces to do what the organization needs to do. There's no good guys or bad guys. There's just people reporting in. This is where we're at. And so from that point of view, does that not only change the defensiveness, right? It's not personal anymore, but maybe it also, I've got to do something for them. They're out there in the field and they're experiencing this. What can I do? Gosh, here's another group that doesn't see it this way. Why would that be? Are they out of touch? Are these people got it wrong? I need to figure out how to connect all this back to that big purpose. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if that's pie in the sky or if that even makes sense.
It does make sense, but it makes me wonder, which is again some of the ways I work with clients on action planning is it's not to overcomplicate the action plan, right? Which is where I feel that sometimes it's just about, and you brought up, it's just about building consistency. The fact that it's different here and versus here, it actually means that probably the underlying system isn't broken. It's just there's an opportunity to build consistency, whether it's just doing it the same way or finding how it works here because it's not working, the way it works here is different. So I think we tend to over engineer action sometimes to think there has to be this big grandiose connection and everything has to be re-engineered. So I agree that we want to make sure that everything is connected and it is looking at the big picture, but I also want to make sure that we aren't overthinking what those actions have to be, because I think the majority of times things are not necessarily grossly broken. Like there are times that they are, and the scores are very clear when that's the case. But I would say 80% of the time, things are not grossly broken. It's about consistency, fine tuning, just strengthening things a little bit more or fixing it here because it's working everywhere else. And so I think part of maybe that is a result of a paralysis that happens when it feels like it's overly complicated, and so it's just easier just to retract back to I'm just going to read the numbers. I don't really have to do anything with that information.
Yeah, so great point. Absolutely great point. We've all heard the, paralysis by analysis mindset. And I'll tell you, I think part of that is because maybe consultants and leaders share this. We think we have to understand something before we take action. And I'm starting to believe that that's the exact opposite of the truth. We need to take action so that we can understand what's going on. There's something about poking that actually lets us understand and we can adjust from there. Thank you, Kurt. Levine or Lewin, depending on which side of the ocean we are. So there you go. I don't. What happened? Oh, the gong. Oh,
We got double gonged. I don't know what happened there, but hey, listen. Now I'm like, all I'm thinking about is Old Bay, and crap. So I know I'm going to be doing this weekend, but
you should come on over. We're going to have them on Friday. As a matter of fact, we can make space for you, sir.
All right. Well, I will load up the car and head on over. In the meantime, I hope everyone else has a tasty weekend, whatever comes your ways.
Sounds good. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday. Bye bye.